So you've spent hours honing your CV and perfecting your cover letter. You finally sent across that application and you think that you can finally rest. But no, the job has only just begun. And there's still a long way between you and that lucrative offer. Hey guys, welcome back to ASURE, and in today's video I want to talk to you about how to best prepare for your job interviews and tests. Now, as a reminder, I am a private equity analyst who received offers for investment banking and consulting as well. So I'll be tailoring or focusing on those sorts of applications. However, I'm sure that the advice and guidance that I give will also be applicable to other industries and sectors as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So as a recap of the initial application timeline, after first submitting your CV and cover letter, you'll pretty soon after that receive the link to do a virtual online video interview with a computer. Basically, you're given 5 to 10 questions, a minute to prepare for each question, and then you have to record a response. You could also be given a test, a set of numerical, verbal, logical reasoning tests. For any of you who've done the 11 plus before, it's kind of like that but on steroids. In particular, the timing is really difficult. If you do well enough on this online video interview and these tests, you might be asked to do a series of actual interviews. For example, a phone interview followed up by something that's called an assessment center, where you go visit the firm in person, get asked to do a bunch of activities, and we'll have a bunch of face-to-face interviews with people already working at the firm. Alright, let's now walk through how to best prepare for each of these sections. Before I carry on further, it's important to first discuss the different types of questions you might expect to face during an interview. So there are 4 main question types. The first is fit. Are you a right fit for the company? The second is motivational. Are you genuinely interested in the job? The third is competency. Do you have the right mentality and soft skills? And the fourth is technical. Do you have the understanding and knowledge required to succeed? Now, at the video interview stage, while you might be asked a few motivational or fit questions, which you should definitely prepare for, the most common question type you'll get asked are competency questions. So these are questions like, tell me about a time you had to work in a team, or tell me about a time you had to work against a tight deadline. Or if you had to prioritize meeting a deadline or the quality of your work, which would you choose and why? These sorts of questions. Now, if you just type in investment banking competency questions, you'll find websites that literally have a list of all the questions that you might expect. Just go through each of these websites and on a Word doc, make note of the ones that seem to be reoccurring on all the different lists. Then, for those questions, start preparing model answers. Now, a really good technique to use to answer these sorts of questions is called the STAR technique, which stands for situation, task, action, and result. So what you want to first do is set the scene, which is the situation part. Then you want to talk about the specific challenge that you and the team were facing, which is the task part. Then you want to talk about the actions that you personally took to overcome this challenge and what the outcome or impact of your actions were, which is the result part. Now, this is a really good framework for you to create a good structured answer rather than just ramble in front of the camera. Don't write entire scripts, just write bullet points down for each of these questions. And just before you do your video interview, just read through this document and make sure that you get the gist or the general idea that you're saying for each of these. Now, even if you don't get given these questions during your actual interview, you'll hopefully have now compiled a list of different examples and situations that you can bring up confidently in response to any question that might be thrown your way. One piece of advice, if you can, try and bring up different examples for different questions, rather than relying upon the same example again and again and again. It will make yourself look more well-rounded and like you have a more diverse range of things to talk about. Remember, before you have to give each answer, you'll be given a little time to prepare. So it might be handy to have a pen and paper beside you, just bullet point down some things that you can refer to. And it's really important that you look and speak confidently at the camera, rather than just look around everywhere, here, there, everywhere. It'll take some practice, but you will get used to it. The next hurdle you've got to face are the tests, and to be honest, this was the section that I was by far the worst at. My advice is very simple, it's just to keep practicing. There are YouTube videos where people walk through practice questions and answer them so you can get an idea of how to answer these things. And there are also websites where you can do practice questions as well. Some of them are paid, but if you're a university student, just check if your university has a free subscription that you can utilize. I'd also recommend that you apply to the firms that you're less serious about first and do their tests and use that as practice for the firms, for the applications that you're actually more serious or passionate about. Okay, so you've got past the initial interview and tests, and now you've been invited to your in-person assessment center. Congrats, this is by far the hardest stage, but it's also the final boss. Now, you should expect to have multiple interviews. These interviews could have motivational, competency, and technical questions all combined together, or you could have separate interviews testing each one of these question types. You could also be put into groups and asked to perform teamwork or team building exercises with other individuals. It should therefore be no surprise to expect more questions and more difficult questions relative to the earlier virtual video interview that you did. To help prepare you for your AC, I'd recommend that you read over, number one, your cover letter that you submitted. If you watched my cover letter video, you'll recall that I always recommend that you submit a cover letter if there is an option to do so. And that's because as part of your cover letter, you will have already mentioned your reasons for why you, why the firm, and why the division. So if you get asked these questions during the interview, you already have really well thought out answers for all these things. As an additional tip, you might want to go through the Word doc I suggested you create before writing your cover letter. That is the Word doc that contains the bank of information, articles, links related to the firm. If you just skim through that document, you'll quite quickly get up to speed about all the recent things that the firm has done and all the reasons why you actually were impressed or attracted to this firm in the first place. The second document that you should definitely refer back to is a document you created before doing your virtual video interview. These will have your draft answers for all the competency questions that might potentially come up. That leaves you with pretty much just the technical questions that you have to prepare for. And my first recommendation on this is to just read the FT or the Economist in the weeks leading up to your assessment center. And that's because by reading these things, you'll get a sense of the biggest macro trends, the biggest issues that the market is facing, and the fact that you're not just reading it the night before will mean that you'll have a sense of continuity and understand how things have progressed recently. The next thing for you to do is literally just Google the division that you're applying to and then type in technical questions onto Google. There will be loads of websites with plenty of lists of questions and model answers. Now, the important thing that you should avoid doing is just memorizing the answer, because it's very likely that you'll get tested further and further on a particular topic. So if you don't understand something, make sure that you do the research until you understand the logic and fundamentals behind the answer. Another quick tip, if you Google the name of the firm that you're applying to and then just type in interview questions, then you sometimes might get lucky and find a list of questions that your specific firm has asked in their assessment centers. So if you take on all this advice, it should leave you in good stead to do really well in your assessment centers and hopefully secure that lucrative offer. So that brings me to the end of this video. If you did enjoy it or find it useful, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you're looking for more personal advice or want to check out my proven CVs and cover letters available for purchase, go to ASURE.uk, which is my personal website. If you'd like to see my video on CVs and cover letters, go check out these videos here. Otherwise, thank you guys and see you soon.